Okay, we are live. How's it going, everybody? Chuck Holton here. Thank you for watching CBN's YouTube channel. I'm here with Max Fulton. Max is a young man who lives in North Carolina, and I'm bringing him on because we want to talk about the aftermath of Hurricanes Milton and Helene and what still needs to be done, what has been done. Before we get into that, I want to point out that down at the bottom of your screen, there's a donate button that CBN has put together and made a deal with YouTube so that YouTube will not take a cut off of anything that's donated for this during this live. And all of the money that's donated during this live is going to go directly to Operation Blessing and their efforts to help people in Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, down in Florida, and other places that were affected by those hurricanes. So far, we've raised over $16,000 on the last live that we did. And so we're going to leave this up until Thanksgiving, I think. And so whatever gets donated through that button down at the bottom of your screen is going to go directly to help affected people in the zone that was decimated by the hurricane. So first, I want to get to Max. Max, introduce yourself to us. Max's family and our family have been friends for a long time. Max lives in the area. So tell us about yourself and how your family was affected by the hurricane.
How's it going? My name is Maxwell Fulton. I live in Boone, North Carolina. And we had a hurricane come through, and I didn't think it was going to be much, but it really was. We had no power for 11 days, and we had just one generator, thank God, that would run our freezers full of chicken and our internet. But we we're in a valley, and it wasn't too bad at our house. Nothing super major, just a couple trees down on the road. But as the hurricane went on, we started to go out and try cut trees for people, and we just kind of realized this is way bigger than we ever thought. People's entire house is gone, and like people we know. The Walmart here completely flooded, and yeah.
Amazing. So the official death toll of this thing is the work continues to help try to recover from this storm is like 220 people across the Southeast. But I know there's been a lot of rumors going around, especially in your area, that the numbers are likely much higher. What have you been hearing?
Actually, I got to talk to a lineman that has a company out of Charlotte, and he said he personally was able to pull out 150 people, just by himself and with the group that he was working with.
So
It's
you're talking about dead people.
dead people. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
150 people just for his group, and that was maybe one or 2 weeks in. So
Wow. So there's got to be a lot more. I mean, seen numbers as high as 600. And that's horrific. Did you guys see any people or any places where there might have been people under the debris or anything?
not in our areas. Mainly, we were just doing tree cutting, and we didn't go to
Mhm.
like the major hot spots. Vilas, North Carolina, just right off of Boone, was hit very hard. But there's kind of more just niche areas, and we focused mainly on cutting trees than rather than search and rescue.
Yeah. So I saw 822,000 acres of trees were damaged or destroyed in North Carolina alone. That's horrific. I mean, that's bigger than a lot of forest fires and I mean, large ones that you see out west. Uh, and I imagine that there are tons of roads. Like I saw something like 6,000 miles of roads that are blocked by fallen trees. That's a lot of work. Um, Tell me what that did, how it affected the people that you saw in your area.
So just on my road, maybe 15 trees, not that bad. We had some country boys come out, pull them to the side, not that bad. We went to Vilas, and there was people's like the main roads were not bad. DOT was able to clear it pretty quickly, except for landslides and bridges that were out. But
Mhm.
there were people's driveways that people had no idea. We had numerous cases where for example, my coworker's mom, She had a power line across her road and maybe 40 trees on the road. There was an elderly couple and her, and both of them ran out of water and had no contact, no Wi-Fi, no. She didn't even know her neighbors were alive. No contact with them for a full week. And these people are elderly. They have heart medications, diabetes, pacemakers, and just there's no like there.
No
People don't.
news.
Nobody knows. Yeah, it's really.
Wow.
So one house, I was looking for places to go. I'm like, I'm sure there's people out there, and we would even just drive around and try find these houses. Hey, could I cut it? And people were making Facebook groups to communicate. And this woman was in Yemen, and her husband is a diplomat or something like that over there. And she was able to post on Facebook about her husband or her dad that was stuck. And we went to his place, and he had, not even kidding, like 350 trees on his road. He's got about a 3/4 mile driveway and 350 trees and a massive tree just completely blocking the road. Not something you can just cut up by hand. We had the Forest Service out there, and they had to get an excavator to pull it off. And I tried making an effort, and I was like, this is going to take 2 weeks at my pace, just one person. It was so much work, and you had to walk all the way up the driveway because you couldn't fit vehicles through.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I got a group together, and we had small off-road vehicles that could fit underneath this giant tree. I sent some photos of that Cherokee and stuff getting under there,
Mm-hmm.
and drive up there, and we knocked it out in a day for all the most of the trees. There were quite a few widowmakers we just had to leave for the Forest Service, but that was
so. Yeah, I wanted to point that out, that you then went and got together a bunch of your buddies and put together a team and went out and started cutting trees for other people and helping other people out. Tell us how much work you did, how long you guys were out there doing that and everything.
So we cut easily over 1,000 trees in 1 or 2 weeks. We could have done 1,000 in a week. We weren't really counting, but I'd say at least 350 for one driveway, and we serviced probably over 20 houses in those 2 weeks, just completely blocked. I mean, it's insane. Like some we had to just completely leave and find a different way to get somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
School was out for 2 weeks for me. I called off work. I was like, I work at Lowe's Hardware, and I thought I could have some other kid go and tell somebody where the generator's at, and I can go.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the one that has a truck. I have a chainsaw, and I have the knowledge, so I'm a lot more useful helping people out. So
now that's super dangerous. I mean, I've been cutting trees for a long time, and I've got the scars to prove it. I hope you guys were wearing chaps and earplugs and everything.
Yeah.
Some of the pictures I saw didn't look like everybody was.
No. So we had one guy. He came in shorts and shoes, no shirt, no nothing, and he was trying to cut with a chainsaw. And I said, "Stop! You cannot do that. You have to have some chaps on at least." So I gave some chaps, but still no shirt. Not everybody was super in tune with safety, but I tried to give him what I could.
Safety third.
Yeah.
So, folks, thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button over there, and you'll see right at the bottom of the video there's a button to donate, and that money goes to Operation Blessing. That's CBN's philanthropic arm. We made a deal with YouTube for this video that they wouldn't take a cut of anything that's donated through this particular live. And that means that everything you donate is going to go right to the people who need it. Operation Blessing, let me just explain, is very good about magnifying your dollars as they get donated. So rather than, if they raise $10,000, rather than just going and spending $10,000 on generators or chainsaws or blankets or whatever, what they'll do is go rent trucks with $10,000 and take the trucks to a faraway like company, Sam's Club, for example, and say, hey, we've got trucks. We're going to take these trucks down to North Carolina. Anything you guys want to donate, we will transport and give away for you. And they will take that $10,000 and raise $200,000 worth of aid with it. And so your money gets magnified over and over again. I've seen this for decades as I've been working with CBN all around the world, and they've just raised millions of dollars that way. So you can rest assured that the money that you donate through CBN and Operation Blessing are going to get to the people who need it, and they're going to do a whole lot more to help those people than it would even if you just went yourself and gave it to them. I see some people asking if they can volunteer to go help. I suppose, Max, there are still people that are out there helping. I saw that there are still thousands of people without power. Just North Carolina alone has 529 power outages still, and that doesn't count the number of people that are without power. That's just the number of areas that are without power. And we're talking going on more than a month now without electricity. So are there still volunteer organizations that you know of in your area?
Yeah, so I have my church, Baptist Home Baptist Church, and they're thinking more long term. They know that everybody's going to be here for 2 weeks to a month and just get as much as they can done, emergency stuff. But it's really the long term game that it's going to be, because people don't have their hospitals. So there's a lady needing a immediate brain surgery, and her whole hospital is wiped out. So what does she do? So people are needing help for getting to these places. Our church was building a porch for an old lady. She couldn't get up to her house. Just a little simple thing, but that makes the biggest difference. She can't get in her house without a porch, without some stairs to get up. So rebuilding is a really big thing. People are out without houses, living in tents, and we had snow in Boone a little bit ago, and I'm sure right now as
So it
well.
is starting to get cold now.
It is. It is. Yeah, it was maybe 36 this morning.
Oh my goodness. I saw, just was perusing on Twitter, and I saw that they're interviewing some people who are living in their car still more than a month after the storms. And man, you can imagine that if it's getting that cold, this is getting pretty uncomfortable. Although I imagine that even right after it happened, it was super uncomfortable, even when it was hot, because of the bugs and the humidity and everything like that. No air conditioning. A lot of people are used to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What uh, what are the biggest needs that you know of right now?
Um, just maybe a week or two ago, a big need was diesel. People didn't need the
Really?
water, they didn't need the gas cans, they needed diesel and they needed stuff for running heavy equipment. We had a solid month easily of people coming with excavators and equipment, trailers full of supplies. I mean, just along you look on the highway and every car is just a truck with a trailer and an excavator, clearing those roads. A lot of it's rebuilt, but or a lot of it's cleared, but bridges need to be rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of contracts going out with, I mean, it's DOT and stuff, to rebuild these highways. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not.
saw that there were over 500 and I think 540 bridges in North Carolina that were damaged or destroyed by the storm that are going to have to be rebuilt. There was even a lady who died the other day because she was driving on a road and part of the road was buckled and washed out, and her car hit the fold in the road and flipped over and went off a cliff or something. That's happened to a couple people. So there's still so much damage out there. It's going to take a year or more probably to fix it, if not, quite a bit more than that. Now, one of the things I just want to point out, you tell me if I'm wrong, Max, that I've covered a lot of hurricanes and fires and floods and earthquakes and everything across the United States for the last couple of decades. And I've also been to quite a few natural disasters overseas. And the difference I see is that in the United States, people come from all over the place from areas that are not affected at their own expense in order to help people who have been affected by the storm. Did you see that happening?
Absolutely. I've said that to people. I've said this would have never. We lived in Panama. I said this would have never happened in Panama. This would have never happened anywhere else. It's the American people uniting. I mean, it's what America's about.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people, not the government. They're the ones helping, taking their time, personal money. I saw a whole company from Minnesota dropped everything they had and they started heading towards North Carolina with all their machinery, all their people. Their jobs were paying their employees to go and help people out. My brother's job was paying for chainsaws for my brother to take off work and bring supplies up and down. It, yeah, it would have never happened anywhere else.
That's amazing. Now, I heard the rumors that that FEMA was coming in and stopping those people from helping. Was that true? Did you hear about that?
I definitely heard about that, and we didn't personally get stopped. There were a lot of the government was not there at all for a solid 2 weeks. Nothing. The Army and the National Guard came in later on, and FEMA came in after 2 weeks. But that was when I was finishing, and we were at the cafeteria for the university. The university opened their cafeteria for everybody to eat at there, and I questioned them. I was like, "Where were you guys? Like, where were you when we needed you? What's going on? Who's in control of this?" And they were out of Ohio, and they said they were in Florida, and they're there pre-hurricane, and it was a mess.
Well, it's surprising to me that that FEMA showed up. I guess it's not surprising to me. FEMA showed up once all the work was done. I mean, you guys put together your own, out of your pocket, your own time, and fixed the problem. And then FEMA shows up to take the credit after it's all over with. And you know, there's the news that talks about that there was at least one FEMA manager who was telling people to skip the houses that had Trump flags in front of them. And from what I'm seeing on social media, there's a lot of people who believe that it went much higher than that. And I think all but 2 districts in North Carolina voted for Donald Trump this time. That did not happen in the previous election. So I think that this storm and the lackluster response to it definitely had an effect on the election. How do you feel about that? Do you think people maybe change their minds about who to vote for?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't see any blue-haired liberals out there helping out. It was pure, I mean, I don't know how you describe it, but
rednecks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the FEMA people, nobody liked them coming because they came and they had nothing to offer. We'd already done all the work. They weren't there when we needed them, so we don't want you now. And people were turning them away. And the FEMA people, they had an IRS police agent with them for protection, or so they say. And he was saying, yeah, they were getting death threats and turned away from a lot of houses. And they said, "Get out of here. You didn't help me when I wanted it or when I needed it. So I don't want your help now."
Amazing. So you said you guys went 11 days without power, and you had one small generator. Now, for those that don't know, Max's family runs a small chicken farm, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's how you guys make your living out there. So losing freezers full of chicken wouldn't have just meant that you had to, you know, eat rice or something for a few weeks. That's your livelihood, right?
It is. It is. We also had no water because we had no way to connect our well pump to our generator. So I bathed in the creek a couple nights, tried couch surfing at different houses and stuff, but our freezers were full. We had about 6 freezers full of chicken and beef. We have Deep Gap Regenerative Farms is our farm, and we sell organic chicken and everything. But yeah, that would have been a huge financial loss. That would have been devastating.
But only one small generator, so you guys had to move them around, move it around to make sure everything stayed cold.
Yep.
So tell me what happened after that. Because I said, man, have you made any changes?
Yeah. So our neighbors, just right down the road, they were super generous. And as a thank you for the work that we did cutting all those trees, they donated a whole house generator to us. Very expensive and very nice. And we have now a generator plugged to our house that can run all of our electricity and stuff. But that was very amazing of them.
Wow, that's amazing. So I just want to stop for a second and say, please go hit the like button. That tells YouTube more people need to watch this video. And that's a cheap way that you can assist us in trying to raise more donations for the people that are still affected by the storm. And on top of that, I just wanted to point out that I have a new book out, and it's on the topic of, it's called The Death of Civilization. And it's on the topic of how we have lost touch with our neighborhoods and how we need to get that back. That when there is a crisis, no matter whether it's a flood or a hurricane or civil unrest, that the thing that will make the difference is you cannot be an island. You're not going to hole up in your house and lock your doors and just, be protected for a month with your supplies, because when the people around you get hungry, they're going to come looking for people who have supplies. And so what you need to do is you need to start building those relationships back with your neighborhood and get to know those people. And then when an emergency arises, you will have the people around you to pull together and help out. That's called Death of Civilization. You can get it on my website right now at chuckholton.com. So just go over to chuckholton.com. It's also now available in softcover on amazon.com. So just look up Chuck Holton, Death of Civilization. You can get that over there. But you can, if you go to chuckholton.com, you can download it for free if you're a supporter over there. So now, what if you had it to do all over again, Max, knowing what you know now, what kinds of things would you have stocked up on? What changes would you have made before the storm got here?
That's a really great question. I've been watching a lot of videos on it. We had a group called the Sentinel Foundation up in Banner Elk, and they did an excellent job at doing that. The biggest thing would be communication, finding out who to talk to, forming these groups, and being able to unify and go out from there. So definitely generators, 4x4 vehicles, gas, water filtration, chainsaws.
So and obviously a way to get your water or get water if your power is out, right?
Yep. We have a well pump, and we have a generator, but we have no way to power it. So
yeah,
that's something like that you didn't think about.
They make things that you can attach to your well and actually hand pump it in an emergency. I've never used one, but I've seen them for sale. So, something like that. There are, now when it comes to communications, it's likely that, well, cell phones didn't work, right? I mean, where you guys are.
No, we're in a complete dead zone. So we had no communication with our house, which was our base, but we couldn't communicate out without having the generator up at our house.
Did you guys have walkie-talkies or anything like that?
We did. A lot of places we didn't have service, and a lot of times we just went with it. Walkie-talkies would have been a huge thing. We've bought those since then. We bought a whole house generator. Filling up our gas cans, multiple generators. Yeah.
How about Starlink? I know there has been a lot of talk about it. I just got one, and I tell you, I like it a lot.
Yeah. We actually used to have Starlink at our house, but we had fiber optic, so all our cables were underground and they weren't affected, which was a miracle.
That's great.
Really, really helped.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
We donated our Starlink to the church. And I know Elon Musk donated a bunch of Starlinks. People were coming in with Starlinks, just truckfuls of Starlinks. And I think he made it free for a lot of people. But that was a key. I mean, that was so important for communications, because the major communication between everybody, because just because you have a walkie-talkie doesn't mean that other people do have it. So those people that have their houses trapped, they don't have a walkie-talkie to talk with you. So the biggest thing was Facebook. So having cell service, so Starlink, that was a huge factor.
So here's the crazy thing. This is something I did some reporting on, I think last week or the week before, and that is that there was this $43 billion internet connection bill that passed that they put Kamala Harris in charge of, and so far, I mean, that's been like 2 years ago. And not one single house has been connected to the internet. But at first, Elon Musk was given an $800 million contract for places in North Carolina, Tennessee, and North Florida, and parts of West Virginia to connect those places to the internet using Starlink. $800 million contract. And then for political reasons, because he was supporting Donald Trump, his contract got yanked, and they canceled that contract. Now, the non-Starlink option that the government ended up going with was putting fiber optics out to everybody. And that one ended up was going to cost, I don't know if they're ever going to do it or not. Again, they still haven't even connected one house using those funds, but it was going to cost $100,000 per house to connect. And Elon's, his project was going to cost like $1,100 per house to connect. But yet they canceled that one and then, gave it to somebody else. And the areas that he would have already had internet in would have been the areas where you live. So it's just absolutely frustrating and a perfect picture of how the government works. It's just like they have a committee of people that sits around and going, how can we make this stupider? It's just like, there's got to be a way we can make this more expensive, more excruciating, and less effective. And so let's do that. And so, again, I think that probably had a big effect on the way people voted. And so, yeah. Well, Robert H. is saying, what? 100,000? Whose pocket is expanding? Yeah, no kidding. There's a lot of people that get in between those. I've actually I have a little side business that does security contracting. And I have more than once had contracts that we were bidding on where we submitted a bid and the U.S. government person running the bid comes back to me and says, could you make that a little more expensive, please? Because if they don't spend the money that they get allocated, then next year they won't get that money. So they have to spend it. And that way they ask, their way of bargaining is to bargain you up in price and not down. That's your government at work, folks. And that's why I think Donald Trump probably did a really good thing by putting Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in charge of the new, Department of Government Efficiency. That's something we should have had a long time ago, I think, but we don't now. So folks, if you have questions for Max or for me, go ahead and put them in the chat and somebody will pin them to the top there where I can see them. Try to put them in all caps. It makes it a little bit easier. Max, what would you say to people, what would you say most Americans don't realize or understand about what happened in North Carolina after these storms?
The government's just not there to help you. You got to, like you were saying, we've actually been implementing your book, talking to neighbors and getting to know them, especially because of this. It's like, it's no longer conspiracy. It's no longer crazy to think. It's very real. That you need to be prepared for these, and you don't have to have a whole doomsday shelter like you're saying, but just be prepared and know your neighbors. But the government's not there to help you, so be prepared. Know people, have communication set up, have supplies.
Yeah, just common sense stuff. Christopher Qualls asks, how are you surviving? How would you answer that, Max?
We're doing good. We're still, I was recovering a lot from school because my school started a lot earlier because it was in a town that was not affected. But recovering from that's been fine. My neighbor, she's just right across the creek. She's got stage 4 cancer, and she's going through chemo, and she still needs help. She has trees down in her yard. She can't go for a walk, and she has her porch needs to be like screened in and stuff. So there are still a lot of people that need help, and I'm trying to get to that, but we've all just been very busy.
I'm sure. And is your business kind of back up and going?
Yeah. My mom's trying to go to all those farmers markets and sell a chicken and stuff, and it's maybe not 100%, just because things are all weird still.
Yeah. Rensame Sherman says, why don't people have power? I can answer that. Because there were more than 6,000 miles of roads that were blocked by landslides and downed trees. So it's hard to get to everywhere. What you have to understand is that when there's an event like this, they can't just, flip the switch and turn the power back on or go fix the down power lines. First of all, they have to check every single pole for damage. Now, my sons actually did some work with an organization, kind of a contractor, and I went once with them and helped out where there was a big winter storm in West Virginia. But this is what happens when there's a natural disaster like this. They get these teams of people with an assessor and a driver, and they send these teams out, and you have to literally go up and down every single power line in the affected area and check every single pole, make sure that there's not an insulator that's damaged, make sure that there's not a switch that's thrown, make sure that there aren't any lines that are damaged, that the pole is bent, there's just, it is a hugely time-consuming and time-intensive process. And what I tried to do was get out my drone and fly the drone down the lines in places that would have been hard to get to. And at first they thought it was a real good idea. And then they decided, you know what, you just can't get a good enough look at it with the drone. And so what you don't understand is places like where Max lives, there are areas where these power lines go across wilderness areas for dozens of miles, and there's no road out there. So you can't just drive along, and many of the places the power line goes along the road. So you drive along and you look up and you can go pole to pole to pole. Each pole has a number, and you have a iPad with all the numbers on it, and you go check each pole and check them off and make sure they're okay. But there's a lot of them where the road goes around this way, but the power line goes straight across the wilderness. And we're talking miles, and somebody has to walk all of those. Well, that's one thing if it's in a regular time and the right of way under the power lines is free and clear, because usually there's a little path there or something. But after a storm, when there's 820,000 acres of forest that has been damaged or destroyed, you're climbing over, under, and through giant piles of brush. And it could take you a day to go a mile or two across those wilderness areas. And again, some of those runs go 5, 6, 10, 12 miles through the wilderness, and every single pole across there has to be checked. So it is tremendously time consuming. And that's why they still have more than 500 areas in Tennessee alone that are without power. And then on top of that, you have mudslides. And then when there are damages, then you have to be able to get these big trucks in there to replace the poles, replace the lines, and all that sort of thing. And that takes a lot of time, especially if they're in these very remote areas. So
Yeah.
will you have anything to add to that, Max?
Yeah. One thing that we're prepared for, and a lot of people were concerned of, is this winter. We're concerned that these trees that are almost about to fall are going to fall this winter during winter storms, freezing and high winds and stuff like that. So we're expecting more power to be out. So we're prepping for that as well. But I just want to say, one of the houses we went to, there were more trees down than there were up. It was just covered.
Like a lawnmower went through it.
Exactly. It was insane. And so now you're trying to drive your truck through, say if it's just the road, you have all these trees covering the road. So as a lineman, you got to cut through all those trees, and that'll take days and days, yet alone unimproved land.
Incredible. Max, somebody's asking here, do you know if there's anyone or any organization that's still attempting to search for bodies? Or do you think?
I think most of the search and rescue is over. Maybe in certain areas they're looking for that. Maybe just in the
this would be search and recovery, but yeah, even still, you're talking a month after the event, more than a month after the event. A lot of those bodies, if there were under large piles of brush or something like that are going to be decomposed to the point that they'd be difficult at this point to find. But, you know, I think the majority of them have been found. I don't think the numbers are 20,000. Do you, Max? I mean, I saw somebody in the chat say that they had heard that 20,000 people died. That's a city, you know.
Yeah, maybe not that high. There was a lot of misinformation on certain things and just kind of blowing up. It was still very bad. Maybe not in my specific area. We had a lot of trees, a lot of, like, 20 minutes up the road, there's whole bridges out. But we didn't necessarily have as many deaths here.
Yeah. How old are you, Max?
I'm 19 years old.
So Max is a solid human being. This is the kind of young man we need to encourage. And you're out of high school now, right?
Yep, I'm in college for mechanical engineering right now.
Mechanical engineering. What are you going to do with that?
Maybe some military contracts, build some rockets or something. I'm not sure.
Go work for SpaceX.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Max. I really appreciate you coming on with us. And folks, just one more time, the button at the bottom of your screen, which says donate here, I think it says that. I can't see it, but there's a donate to Operation Blessing button at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that button and anything you donate will go directly to Operation Blessing. It does not have anything taken out of it by YouTube. We made a special deal with them, and that button will be live until Thanksgiving. So what we're doing is all the money that we're raising for CBN is going to directly help the people who are affected in the area. And so Catherine Hicks says, it was reported that 200 bodies were recovered just in one small town. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely more than 200 people because like Max said, he talked to one guy who said he pulled 150 bodies out. So I've heard 600 plus, but we don't know, you know, and they may never know exactly how many people got washed away by that. That's one thing about these sorts of events is that people just get lost to the storm or buried in a landslide or something like that, and they're just never found. This button doesn't work outside the USA, or at least not in Australia. Well, sorry about that. I thought I saw somebody who donated from Australia. You might have to go use a VPN or something. Log in like you're in the United States. Any last words, Max?
Just one thing. Yeah. Some people were saying that there was concern, like, the government was shutting down certain areas to say that it could have been homicide because there was looting and shooting. I know in Asheville, I think there were like 6 people that shot and killed each other at a gas station just trying to get gas. So that is kind of what is stalling some of the numbers as well. They don't want to say it's because of the storm or because it's the homicide. Right. And whether that's to go and downplay it, I'm not sure, but that is one thing I heard.
There are other conspiracy theories floating around that the government is coming in trying to buy up land. Have you seen any government people trying to buy land out there?
I haven't. I didn't go to any of those like major areas. Some of the areas, I mean, I went to horrible areas, but nothing like Asheville.
Yeah. Okay. And I talked to some people that I know who live in Asheville, and they said that they didn't see anything like that either. You have to be careful, folks. When there's something like this, there are always people who really desire for this to be some sort of conspiracy on the part of the government. There's enough to hate about our government. There's enough to be frustrated with about any bureaucracy that you don't have to make up stuff like that. And it's not helpful. So I think that we need to be discerning. And so I think the last thing we need to do before we go is we should pray for the people that are still affected. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, let's pray. Lord God, I just come to you right now, and I thank you for Max and the work that he and his friends did to help the people around them and to be salt and light in a dark time. Father, that's when Christians should shine the most. And we just thank you for encouraging him, for motivating him, sending the Holy Spirit to call them to do such a thing for their neighborhood. Lord, I pray that you would bless their efforts. You'd bless CBN and Operation Blessing's efforts to help people. I pray that you would just encourage people to give and show themselves Americans, because that's what Americans do. Lord, I pray for all the people who were affected. And I pray that if nothing else comes of this, that they would cry out to you and that you would be found by them and be their God. And Lord, that they would find out that even when all the material stuff is taken away, that you are still there and you are still faithful. All the material stuff can be replaced. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I appreciate you, Max. Thank you very much for coming on with us. And you guys stay safe out there, huh?
Thank you so much.
Sure. Tell your folks I said hello.
I will.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. I think that is it.